The datapad clattered to the floor of the observation deck, its screen still glowing with impossible images. Peary's three-fingered paws trembled as she stared at Dana Cross, the human who stood at the navigation console, completely unaware of the paradigm shift occurring behind her. For 6 cycles, Peary had served aboard the Celestial Drift as a junior technician. For 6 cycles, she had watched the humans with a mixture of awe and terror that all Keshari felt in their presence. Humans were titans, immortal warriors who emerged fully formed from their homeworld, unstoppable and eternal. They didn't die in battle, they didn't age, they simply were, like stars or gravity. Every species in the galactic collective knew this truth. It was why the humans had ended the Scourge Wars in mere solar years, when the combined fleets had failed for generations. It was why seeing a human on your vessel meant safety, protection, inevitability of victory. But the images on that datapad told a different story. Peary had been organizing Dana's personal files, a routine maintenance task, when she stumbled into a folder marked Earth Archives. Curiosity, that dangerous evolutionary trait her people shared with humans, had compelled her to open it. The first image showed a tiny human. Not small like the Keshari, who stood barely a meter tall at adulthood, but genuinely young. A juvenile. The creature had Dana's eyes, that peculiar hazel shade, but set in a soft, round face covered in those strange nutrient receptacles humans called freckles. The tiny human was missing teeth. Its limbs were disproportionate, clumsy-looking. "You were a cub too?" Peary had whispered to the empty room. She scrolled frantically. More images appeared. Dana as an even smaller cub, barely able to walk, clutching a primitive stuffed animal. Dana at various stages of development. Growing taller, features sharpening, and other human cubs, adults, and elders with graying fur on their heads and lines etched into their faces. Elders. Humans had elders. The implications crashed through Peary's consciousness like a meteor storm. If humans had been cubs once, if they grew and aged, then they could also— Peary? You all right back there? Dana's voice snapped her back to the present. The human had turned from her console, concern evident in the slight crease of her brow. That brow, which, Peary now noticed, had tiny lines at its corners. Marks of age she'd never thought to interpret before. Peary's translator chip struggled with the emotion in her voice. Dana Cross, I must ask you something of great importance. Sure, shoot. Dana walked over, her gait casual, unworried. Why would she worry? She thought every species knew her truth. How old are you? Dana blinked. 34. Why? 34 what? Peary pressed. Years. Earth years. About 42 of your Keshari cycles, I think. Dana tilted her head. Is this for some kind of personnel file? 42 cycles. Peary herself was 30 cycles old. They were nearly the same age. And how long do humans live? The words came out barely above a whisper. Something shifted in Dana's expression. Her eyes widened slightly as understanding dawned. Oh, Peary. Has anyone actually explained human biology to your people? We know what we need to know. That you are eternal. That you do not fall. That you are— We live, maybe, 80, 90 years if we're lucky, Dana interrupted gently. 100 if we're really lucky and have good genetics. We age. We die. We're born as helpless as— well, as any other mammalian species. Really, the observation deck seemed to tilt beneath Peary's feet. But the Scourge Wars, you lost no one. The reports, we lost thousands. Pain flickered across Dana's face. We just didn't tell you. Command thought it was better if the other species saw us as unstoppable. It helped morale when everything seemed hopeless. Peary's mind raced through every interaction, every battle, every moment of casual human bravery she'd witnessed. At Karoth Station, she'd seen Commander Liu throw herself into a reactor breach, manually sealing it while radiation levels would have killed any other species in seconds. Liu had walked away, and Peary had thought it was because humans simply couldn't be killed. Commander Lu, Peary said. She survived Karoth. Barely. She's in medical bay on the Vanguard right now, dying of radiation poisoning. She has maybe 2 weeks left. Dana's voice was steady, but her jaw was tight. She knew what she was doing. She did it anyway. The weight of it settled over Peary like a gravitational field. All those battles, all those impossible last stands. The humans had known they could die. Known they would age, weaken, eventually fail. And they had stepped forward anyway. Why? Peary asked. Why would you fight when you knew? Because someone had to. Dana moved to the observation window, looking out at the stars. Because the scourge would have consumed everything. Because we'd just joined the collective and everyone was looking at us as these newcomers, and we thought, maybe we could help. Maybe our particular brand of crazy was exactly what was needed. Peary picked up the datapad with shaking paws, looking again at the image of tiny Dana, maybe 4 cycles old, grinning gap-toothed at whoever held the camera. This small, vulnerable creature had become the woman before her, the woman who had personally disabled 3 Scourge dreadnoughts in the Karina offensive. We thought you were brave because you couldn't die, Peary said quietly. But you're brave because you can. Dana turned back, and for the first time, Peary saw the human clearly, saw the tiredness around her eyes, the slight gray threading through her dark hair, the small scar on her chin from some long-ago injury that had actually hurt her, saw the mortal being who chose to stand between the universe and oblivion anyway. I need to tell my people, Peary said. They need to know. The collective needs to know. Will it change things? Dana asked. Will they see us differently? Peary looked at the cub in the photo, then at the woman who'd grown from that vulnerable beginning. Yes, she said. They'll finally see you as you truly are, and they'll understand that what you've done is so much more impossible than we ever imagined. Dana was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. We're tired of pretending we're invincible. It's lonely. Peary stepped forward and, for the first time in 6 cycles, reached out to touch a human. Her small paw rested on Dana's hand. You were cubs too, she said softly. And you grew into this. That's not weakness. Dana Cross. That's the most terrifying strength in the galaxy. Through the observation window, the stars burned eternal and unchanging. But inside the celestial drift, something fundamental had shifted. The myth of human immortality had died, and in its place, something far more profound had been born. The understanding that humanity's greatest power had never been their inability to fall. It was their decision to stand anyway.